Welcome again, everyone, to our monthly open mic night, hosted here by the Pat Conroy Literary Center and held in partnership with our friends at the South Carolina Writers Association. We are honored tonight to have with us as our featured presenter, closing out the show, Monica Lee Weatherly, the most recent winner of the Willie Morris Award for Southern Fiction. Thank you so much for joining us, Monica. We're delighted you could do that. And leading up to Monica's reading will be about a dozen writers from across and a little bit beyond the Low Country. We're managing some interesting technical difficulties behind the scene, but don't let that be distracting to you here in our Zoom room or on Facebook. We're delighted to have you all with us. So kicking off the evening, reading first tonight will be our dear friend Elizabeth Robin, followed by Denise Spencer. So Robin, whenever you're ready.
Welcome to New Jersey, which is where I'm sitting right now. I have been on a sojourn for a while, so it's a little weird, but it was nice. I realized how long it's been since I've been on Zoom because I had to download a whole new program. I don't know what happened. I'm not reading from my new book tonight. I wanted to read this little piece. I think I should introduce this by saying this is the kind of thing that happens in our country. It feels like a lot that really drives me crazy. The headline appeared on July 15th, 2022, and read, Colorado Springs man becomes fourth person to push a peanut up Pikes Peak with his nose. And I wrote this tribute to this gentleman. The nose knows. If my quest seems silly, why then all the Teresa photo ops? Why the headlines? NPR, NBC, Colorado Public Radio even. I did it. Set a record. 7 days up our trail, 13 miles, mind you. Don't call me crazy. I planned it out. Went through 24 peanuts and fought dehydration, life on the edge. How rugged pioneers and champions power push peanuts by the nose uphill to 14,115 feet. Ha! Ask me if I'm insane or bored or a cheater, pushing, not really with my nose, but a plastic spatula, duct tape to my face, used a CPAP mask to affix. I am American ingenuity at work. No nut here, just a man, Bob Salem, proving why I was born. Not to solve a pandemic or close ozone holes, not to worry over fires, floods, famine, super bugs. Nitpick away, past judgment, the poster boy for human absurdity. Frivolous goals, you say? But I'm a headline now. Who are you?
Oh my goodness. I can't believe how close we came to not opening with that.
I'll always be here for you, Jonathan.
I'm so glad. That was an amazing piece, and you didn't just read it, you kind of performed it too. You leaned into that.
As I said, beautiful. When something drives me nuts, it becomes a poem.
That was wonderful, Robin. Thank you. Denise, I'm sorry to say you have to follow that.
Yeah, I don't know. It's not going to be nearly as much fun, I have to say. This is called Disinfectant Needed. Check 1, single, married, divorced, widowed. Why do the clinic's forms shoved in my face on orange clipboard when throat is sore and head is stuffed require this declaration? Single is a lifestyle. It may intimate that I must gather my own tissues, blanket, lozenges, and tea as I self-soothe to rest and heal. In my case, it also means I may have pancakes for dinner if I choose. No one insists I retire for the day when they wish. Silence is peace, not loneliness. The kitchen is my favorite color. I've transitioned from being with to being and prefer it this way. Divorced and widowed are not lifestyles. Divorced infers failure. Widowed encourages pity. Both carry heartache. Neither label is needed by practitioners to improve health. It is as if they want to notch the scalpel, insert it, twist it, and drag out intestines when one already feels awful, just because they can. Word surgeons are needed to sanitize the clinic, just as needed as antibacterial soap.
Yeah.
Not nearly as fun as Robin's.
No, but powerful, beautiful.
Was
But
Mm.
absolutely true.
real.
Absolutely true. I write poetry when I get frustrated too, Robin.
Comes from a place of great authenticity, Denise. I appreciate that. I'm a little hungry for pancakes for dinner now, too.
That's it.
Yes. So very effective poem. Thank you for sharing.
You're welcome.
Before Sherry reads, let me tell you who will follow, so you may have a moment or two to prepare yourselves. If you would, I would love to hear next from Abigail, then from Jackie, who is on camera. Well done, Jackie. Thank you. And then Jane Zinger. So those will be our next three after you, Sherry. So whenever you're ready, please.
Okay, this is a memoir from my childhood. Never take shit from anyone. Make every punch count. My dad's first words of wisdom to me as he tightened my boxing gloves. Larry, my opponent and childhood friend, entered the makeshift backyard ring. I lost in the third round. I lost twice. I ripped the side seam of my dress and my mother whipped me. And so began my boxing career. One time my dad bet Bill, the paper boy, that he would give him double his weekly money if he beat me in boxing. He lost, but to give him credit, he was new to the neighborhood where bullies ruled, throwing their weight around. My younger, skinny, very short brother ran his mouth like a constant spring garden hose. He could run, but his short toothpick legs were no match for the muscled long legs of the bullies. Once running from the bullies, he ran into our church, screaming, "Sanctuary, sanctuary, sanctuary." He leaped over the communion railing. The bullies stopped before entering the sacred altar area. The janitor called the priest called the cops, who called our home. We were known. My mom came to the church and dragged George home while hitting with the spatula she had been cooking with. She beat him worse than the bullies. Sorry. My fight slowed down after I broke Laura, the neighbor girl, glasses. She had hit me in the back of the head with a rock. My mom stepped in, she whipped my ass, and when my dad came home, he shook my hand. Childhood was a sea of contradictions. In high school, I joined the debate team. We were always the favored losers. In the regionals, I ended up with the presumed champions. As I began speaking, They laughed that my clothes were from Kmart. Like, how did they know that? I was grateful I didn't have secondhand clothes on. But they were bullies, no different than the ones on my street. Their clothes obviously weren't from Kmart, and their new shoes were polished. Never take shit from anyone. Make every punch count echoed in my mind. My dad's words to live by then and now. I centered myself. I dropped my right shoulder, tucked my chin, preparing for an uppercut. I focused all my power into my mind. I unleashed a flurry of verbal punches, a volley of words on Taft-Hartley, the right of all people to unionize. I cited sources, flipped out obscure facts. Any union rep would be proud to have me as their spokesperson. I not only flattened their arguments, but I put them down. They would not get up. I had no need to wait for the bell. I was the winner. Thank you.
Oh my, we learned so much about you tonight.
Yes, you did.
Oh, I love the church, the spatula, that whole sequence, and then the parallel structure, really, with the debate too, and such a beautiful lead up, such a beautiful escalation. That's the word I'm looking for.
Thank you very much. I sincerely appreciate that. Thank you.
It's a movie. It's like you can
My
see the whole
could be
thing
a movie.
unfold.
Yes.
Yeah. Excellent.
Thank you.
And it's a lot of fun. A lot of us who may not have had exactly those experiences have had similar experiences. And so it takes me back, and I'm glad I wasn't actually a boxer, because I would not have fared as well as you did, but it still took me back home.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you. I mean, what a range we've seen already just in our first 3 readings. This is a good reminder of why we do this, for the chorus of voices that we get to share through open mic night. And next in our sequence tonight then will be you, Abigail, whenever you're ready.
Today I'll be reading Claire de Lune. I received honorable mention for the short story in a 7-day writing challenge on globesoup.net. The genre is adventure. Wild her eyes, impel her features, stern her white, her thoughtful brow. And within her heart's deep center, Bessie made a solemn vow. My closet door swung open. Mother's bloodshot eyes were slanted, and her skin had drooped as though gravity was taking its claws and tugging at her face. She had changed so much in the last year. I've been looking for you everywhere. I doubt that. Mother reached for my flashlight and turned it off. I don't have time for this. Then she took the book from my long fingers and closed it, pausing for a moment. This is one of my favorite poems. Do you want to take it with you? I stared into her stern sea blue eyes and tried to gather my patience before I spoke. It didn't work. I'm not going. I kicked the closet door closed. Claire, she stared at the book in her hands. I just have to be brave on paper. You have to be brave in the real world. That's a lot harder. She took a deep breath. What I'm trying to say is, I'm proud of you. A moment later, I could hear her heels tapping the floor as she quickly walked away. I knew she'd be gone soon. Then it would be Mrs. Hildebrand's turn to annoy me. That woman was built like a mountain man. She held out her chest as though it was a mind of her own, and her legs were as round as a tree trunk. It was much easier to tell my mother no. So instead of putting up my normal fight, I grabbed my suitcase from above my head and threw my clothes in, not bothering to fold them. What was the point? They make me press them every morning at breakfast anyway. I opened my closet door and started to drag my bag behind me. I went downstairs. Clang, clang, clang. Something was stuck to the bottom of my bag. It glistened. I picked it up and held it in the palm of my hand. It was an oval-shaped necklace made of gold and had an amber gemstone in the middle of it with diamonds sweeping around it. I put the necklace on and hid it under my collar. Dressed in all black, I see, Sarah said as she stood by the door with her Hello Kitty suitcase in her hands. Her hair curled into golden rays of sunshine, and her smile was sinister as always. It's my favorite color. Dad just left for the train. He told me to give you a hug from him. Don't touch me. I looked around. I'm guessing the lady of the house just left as well. Sarah nodded. Mommy told me to tell you she loves me and she needs you to watch over me. Yeah, okay, whatever. I picked up my bag. Well, I guess we should be off, shouldn't we? Here, Sarah hands me a brown bag. Mrs. Hildebrand packed us a lunch for the trip. Great. Meat sticks and apples. Yum. As we made our way to the plane, I felt a sense of uneasiness. Though we had made this trip to Switzerland for boarding school for the last 3 years, this time seemed off. It wasn't the absence of my parents' embrace, no. It wasn't the angst between my sister and me, no. It was something else. The air was moist, which wasn't unusual for this time of year, and the dark clouds that hovered above my head didn't seem powerful enough to make me worry. It might have been the red sky and the distant horizon that made me pause. Such longing beauty among a gray sky. But why would beauty worry me? I could hear the whirring sound as the engine started and saw the propellers turning and turning, gaining speed as we began to take off. I buckled my seatbelt and looked over at my sister. Sarah's smile had diminished and her tears poured down her rosy cheeks. Once we were in the sky, it sounded like a continuous flow of air going through a long tube. Calm. I thought about grabbing my sister's hand, telling her we'd be okay as I'd done in previous years. But we didn't need the extra bubble wrap of protection. We heard the speech many times by our father. You're both older now, more independent. It's time for mother to go back to her career as a writer. She used to make more money than me. Did you two know that? The weather had become temperamental. Heavy wind tried to dance with our plane, swinging us side to side. There was no light, only a blanket full of darkness that hugged us and tortured us with its unknown. 153 miles offshore, there was a loud popping noise. Mayday, mayday, the pilot said as rushed as his breath would allow. Sarah's face turned pale and her lower lip quivered in fear. I unbuckled my seatbelt and leaned over her, grabbing the emergency string above our seats, but nothing happened. Within seconds, the plane's engine went silent and I could hear the squealing whistle of a swift descent. I tried to speak, but I couldn't breathe. The pressure was pushing me back into my seat. Glass shattered on all sides. I stared at the pilot as he slumped over in his seat, and I looked to my left, then to my right, and noticed the emergency door handle. I quickly grabbed it and pulled with all my might. Please, God, open. The force was too strong. The door wouldn't budge. I fell into my seat, and without catching my breath, we hit the water. Our plane flipped, broke in half, sending my sister tumbling into the sea. My arms flailing, reaching for her. Sarah, Sarah. When I woke up, I felt sharp beaks pecking at my flesh. I tried to open my eyes, but they burned. I could hear the water lapping against the shoreline. Tap, tap. Wake up, it said. I wanted to move, but when I did, I could feel my bones breaking. But I knew if I lay there forever, it wouldn't be long. So I slowly lifted my hand to my face, feeling a film of sand across my brow. Opened my eyes as spheres of sunlight daggered into them, lowered my arm and rolled onto my belly, stretching my body into a crawl. Inch by inch, I moved toward what? I didn't know. I've never been so scared of God's masterpiece before. The rhythm of the waves as they had hit the sand, gentle breezes as the palm leaves swayed. These sounds were no longer peaceful. They were choruses of alarm. Under a palm tree, I rolled onto my back and closed my eyes. And when I opened them, I could see all the stars in the sky. I could have cried, but I didn't. Instead, I lay there and thought about my parents and my sister and how I'd never see them again. I had let them down. Tears should have come. The memory of my sister came floating to the surface. All those years I spent alone when I had her in the room beside me. Why didn't I say yes when she asked me to play? My mother. She was the glue that kept us together. She was the one that reminded me often how special my time was with her and how we would grow too fast. And here I was, more alone than I had ever been, wishing for that time back. The moonlight hovered over me and something spoke. It said, "You are not alone, never were." It casted a ray of light upon my weak body, and something happened that night I couldn't explain. A boy came out of the deep shadow and leaned down. "Take my hand. Who are you?" When his face came into focus, I could see his smoky glass eyes, flared dirty blonde hair. He didn't look human. I had to get away. I pulled myself up to stand, drawing on what little strength I had. With every fleeting breath I ran, I was like a rag doll. I was certain that my left leg was broken, so I drug it behind me, hitting every branch, splashing through water, my dress shredding. He was getting closer. I could feel his cold breath on the back of my neck. My necklace started to unclasp, so I grabbed it, opened, and stars shot out and surrounded me like a globe, creating a barrier between us. He stood there for seemed a long time. Then moments later, he disappeared. I was far from the beach, far from home, far from my family. The stars fell. I stared at the necklace and held it close to my chest. Then I lay down underneath the big tree and closed my eyes. The sunlight warmed my skin, bringing me ever so close to being awake. Squawk, squawk, shoo, squawk. Go away, you ugly bird. I raised my right hand and waved it away. Shoo! It came nearer, its tiny legs moving like a duck waddling as it walked. Then it pecked at my nose. Ow, that hurt. Squawk. What do you want from me, you silly bird? It ran off into the woods, then it came back, nudging me to follow. My elbows wobbled as I tried to push my body up from the ground, gritting my teeth. Sweat poured from my brow. I turned on my back and stared into the light blue sky. It was clear, not a cloud in sight. I wanted rain, needed it. My lips were peeling and my skin had blistered. They were starting to bleed. The seagull leaned over my head and pecked at my forehead. Squawk. Easy for you to say, I said. You can fly away if you want. Not me. I'm stuck here forever. Well, maybe forever won't be that long. The bird wouldn't move, and I didn't have any more energy to fight it, so I lay there baking in the hot sun until night came. His voice was faint, almost a whisper. I knew the heat and dehydration was getting to me. The white and gray seagull started to talk. You must follow me, it said. Even if I wanted to, I can't. You must. I must be mad, I said. I'm talking to a bird. I turned over onto my belly and scooted my legs underneath me. Then I crawled slowly behind a crazy seagull deeper into the woods, digging my nails into the dirt, gasping for air. Piercing pain jabbed at my insides with every move. The seagull morphed into the boy. There are trillions of galaxies in the universe. And when they collide, the bigger galaxy absorbs the smaller one. Collisions create masterpieces. He pointed into the sky. You were born under the waning crescent moon at the exact time that the Andromeda galaxy collided with the Milky Way, which is why you have the amber. You were given the necklace, which holds the light when darkness falls, which is why I sent the birds into the sky that night to wreck your plane. I fell back trying to get to my feet, but couldn't. Stay away from... Something made a noise. I stopped talking and listened. It sounded like crying. The boy reached for my necklace and yanked it from my neck. I turned in the direction of the sound and started to crawl, dragging my leg through mud and over broken branches. I saw my sister's pink Hello Kitty suitcase under a bush. Claire? Sarah! I climbed beside her. You're alive! I waited here for days, she said. I knew you would find me. The boy told me you would.
Wow. That's pretty incredible, Abigail. You've got a real knack for balancing descriptive writing with the introspection, the reflection of your characters. It's really well handled. You said at the onset something about that being published or receiving an honorable mention. I'm sure I didn't catch that part. Could you repeat that?
Yeah, I received an honorable mention for the short story in a 7-day writing challenge with globesoup.net. They're actually in the UK.
Congratulations. That's wonderful.
Thank
Well
you.
deserved.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining us tonight, too. I really appreciate that.
Thank you for having me.
Jackie, you look very prepared and on camera.
Well, I'm disappointed because my new production here with my new camera didn't work out because I came as the mother of the sea, you'll see, to go along with my new book. And
Very nice.
behind me, we've got the mother of the sea on the wall. And that's with this particular camera on it's way down in the lower left. It's hard to find, but The Rainbow Warrior is my book. And my forthcoming book from Finishing Line Press. So what I wanted to do, and I was so mesmerized by Abigail's story, my mind is kind of flying off here, but I wanted to just give a little background on the book and read some excerpts from it. How this began, well, the Rainbow Warrior, of course, refers partly to the Greenpeace ship that in this particular instance rescued a lot of the islanders from the Marshall Islands, particularly the Bikini Atoll at the time of and after, before and after the nuclear testing. So that's how this started. This was a collection for a larger book called Bikini Laments. And I have several poems in this collection, including The Rainbow Warrior, which is the title poem. And also The Rainbow Warrior is a mythological story, I guess you could say, a figure, according to some American Indian tribes, that Rainbow Warrior will come down to earth and save us from extinction. But the background on the testing was mostly in 1946 and 1954, when the beginning of the testing of nuclear bombs on these Marshallese islands. And so what I did here is to kind of combine the original larger collection, was the combination of prose and poetry on this subject. At the last open mic, I read Bikini Atoll. And this is just the ending of that poem. Bombs explode on Bikini Atoll. 100 times the power of Hiroshima. 1,000 times the power of Hiroshima. The sand, the shells, the fish, the crab, the turtle, the blue liquid rolling in, the arrowroot, the coconut, the milk, the pandanus tree, the worm, the bird, the dreams, the graves, the lives of Bikini Atoll vanish. This is only a test. This is only a test. If an actual emergency occurs, I repeat, this is only a test. So it wasn't until I started to work on another collection that I began to see some connections between the Bikini Atoll poems and some other environmental poems that I had written. One is called The Myth of the Infinite Sea, which is in response to the deep rise in oil spill. But before I get to that, I want to just read a little bit more about this Bikini Atoll and some of the people and their culture. This, I think I posted on Facebook. It was published by Hawaii Pacific University. A child speaks to Labokra. And it's kind of a long poem, so I'm just going to read little excerpts from it. And the mythology behind that Labokra, and that's Libokra, is she was a female spirit who was, the story went that she was an evil spirit and that she poisoned the waters, and then the fish made them sick. But the little child spoke to Labokra and she didn't believe that. Labokra, my father said it was you that came to Bikini before the people had to leave, and that Orjabato drove you off because you were evil. Labokra, the chief said it was you that came and stole away Rongarik in the night and moved the island from south to north, and then the fish began to make us sick, and the palm trees died, and the sandy isle became sandier, so nothing would grow. They said it was you. They said they killed you and dropped your bones in the sea, and the fish nibbled there and became poison to us, and we could not eat. Labokra, they said it was you, but I know it isn't true. Remember the night the big ships came to Bikini? I sneaked away from the hut, rising quietly from my mat to say goodbye to the lagoon. I walked alone under the full moon. The waves seemed lonelier than ever before. The palms gave mournful sounds. And though I often went to the graves at night where my sister was buried, and though the moon scattered light over the shore and the water glistened as in sunlight, I felt afraid, and a chill blew through my shift, and even the ones buried seemed to weep at the mournful sound of the palms. And then it goes on, Labokra and the child have a meeting, a little discussion, and Labokra gives a shell to the child. And it continues, the moon, until then bright and bearing down, spun around, turning dark and darker, plunged into the water, lost like a huge rock into the waves. I stood on the shore like a rock myself until I heard my mother call. Looking up, I saw the moon was there as always, palms dancing like every night before, sand damp and warm under my feet. In my hand, the shell Labokra gave me. I put the shell to my ear and my mother's voice faded into the night. I heard at first Labokra saying, tell all who hear the spirit of the sea, then only a whispering, I am the mother of the sea. I am the mother of the sea. Then, as I said, I began to see connections because this, thank you. This was a long time ago when I began this Bikini Laments. I mean, I think it was before internet. So it's been a long time ago. There's a lot more you can find on it now, but at the time it was very difficult to find. But anyway, as years passed and I began to write more on the environmental issues and then as I was saying, the Deepwater Horizon spill, I began to see how they could connect. And so I gathered these into this particular chapbook. And I want to read just a section of this long, what I call my epic poem, The Myth of the Infinite Sea. I think that most of us here, except let's see, well, Robin, Elizabeth will identify with it, even though she is in New Jersey. But we have images of all of our rivers and land here. This is part 5 from The Myth of the Infinite Sea. I imagine myself an eagle above the confluence, Ashapu, Kambi, Edisto rivers, where my nest sits high in a pine. Tide rises over the sandbar where a pair of orange-eyed oyster catchers nest and sun. I imagine traveling high above the creek, island after island to the mouth of the big river, narrowing to what I know as Lucy Creek. I'm an eagle, and I know no names, only water and land, the wide and mutable river, meandering salty marshes. I leave Beaufort behind, crossing the Albergati Creek to north and cross again, black waters of Cumbie, Ashapu, Edisto, through lowlands of Green Pond and Great Swamp Sanctuary. Water lilies, alligators, heron, up a light incline to dry land and cotton fields for a time. Toward Columbia, Saluda River, still beyond another 20 miles by foot, a day's walk toward mountain streams. I imagine this distance I have journeyed slimed with oil, pumped from the earth's center, out of place, penetrating, saturating, smothering, poisoning. This distance is the vastness of the oil, still pumping, pouring, poisoning sea to shore. This journey I make as an eagle to comprehend the vastness, not of the sea, but of the oil on the sea. The last section is back at home. Passerina cirrus, painted bunting, hair at the feeder. Look quickly, fluorescent red, green and purple, he, iridescent green, she, brilliant plumage yet hard to see, having learned the foolish will cage them. A bird in the hand, not worth two in the bush, infinite sea, not infinite. A white sky July morning now, oil plumes in the Gulf, billow black, infinite sea, not infinite, a dream out of the mist. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Jackie. Beautiful reading. Beautiful. And just as a reminder for everybody, a Rainbow Warrior comes out, is it March or April?
It's supposed to be February, but they said probably count on March.
Okay.
Thank you. Yes, so it's in pre-sales right now.
Yeah, I was going to say, do you have a link or place to go to for pre-sales?
I do. Do you think it would work to put it in the?
Or at least orally, you could say.
I think probably, yeah, just to go to Finishing Line Press,
Yes, it's Finishing Lines.
coming titles, or just on my Facebook page. And actually, this was really great because the publisher featured my chapbook this week, and so she's been putting it on LinkedIn and Facebook and some places I don't go, like Instagram, but yeah, if you just put my name in it, Finishing Line Press. Thank you. Mhm.
Absolutely. We're all looking forward to it, Jackie. And I
Thank
appreciate you effectively cosplaying as one of your characters.
I was really ready for a dramatic appearance, but my camera was not working this time, but I'll work on it. Thank you.
I think we should consider making that a requirement for a future open mic. You can only come if you cosplay as a character from your work.
Be something in your poem or in your fiction.
Our featured writer next month, who is Juan Eugenio Ramirez, is the author of a book entitled The Man with Wolves for Hands. So I definitely want to see that in cosplay. I appreciate you introducing.
That'll be tricky. Great. That's a great title.
Yes. All right. Jane, you are next. And then Casey, we're going to go to you after that. So Jane, whenever you're ready, we're excited to be with us again.
Well, thank you so much. Wow. I've changed what I was going to read 3 times after these pieces. They're so wonderful. The piece that I'm going to read is from this book. And is it okay if I mention next week?
Please, yes.
Tuesday, I'll be at the Conroy Center with Jonathan, and I'm going to be reading from this book, and also Libby Bernadine.
Yes.
My friend that I've only met over the internet, Libby, will be there. This is,
we'll figure this out.
Okay, sorry. So I was gonna read a couple of new things, but I want to read from the book, and this is going to be in 2 parts. About 1.5 years ago, I lost my husband, and it meant that I left teaching, university teaching and school teaching to live here and be with him so he didn't have to go. He was a geophysicist, a geologist, and a teacher. So we lived out of the living room, and hospice came and went. And it was, so the first part of this poem is A Day Like Today. because our house is like a solar house. It's windows all around. And so a storm came through, a very bad storm with many tornadoes on the back with the trees. And I'm here alone with Steve, and he loves the storm, but he has dementia, just seems fun to him. So, and then the second part of this is how it is 6 months later after this. So the first part is just another dementia day. I stand on the upper deck to watch the storm approach, the blue afternoon running for its life as gray envelops the sky. Rain erupts and thunder seizes my heart as I move back into our house, a solar home. Windows are the east walls. The better to see you, says the witch of the storm. Gale force gusts coming our way, the indiscriminate side of Mother Nature. Wind spins, the pines shudder, the oaks bend, and inside the TV sputters everything about the weather. The weather radio comes on, a shrill alert beeping between updates. The regular programming is disrupted. Our weatherman lives for this, calmly reporting the obvious. A local storm is bearing down now. If you're in the area, seek cover. The area in red is moving quickly just past the lake. We are in the path of the storm. And I am alone with my man, so vulnerable in his hospital bed, immovable, unable to walk or talk. Barometric pressure drops and I am dizzy. Our wall of windows, so lovely on a sunny day, are terrifying now as the wind shows off, flailing away. Our woods just outside are a war zone, limbs cracking and whistling, squirrel nests detach and sails by, and then comes the hurling rain. I have no better game plan than to cover him with my body, pulling a rug over us and waiting for it to pass, praying for the windows to hold. And I look into his curious eyes, so beautifully blue and calm, and deep inside his mind, he says, "What is she up to now?" And so I have to tell you that Tim Conroy was in my writing group. And when I was working on this poem, when I got to the end, Tim said, "What kind of rug was it?" After this whole thing and the storm, he's like, "What kind of rug was it?" So whenever so that's it. So let's jump ahead. And I'm alone now, and this is a farm. It's 12 acres. It's a 3/4 of a mile driveway just to get down to my house through the woods. I love it, and I'm figuring out how to stay here. And so this is overdue maintenance. And this is the poem that I start the book with. I am scratched and bruised with chigger bites in sacred places. That's what happens in the country when you cut brush and haul broken branches into the deep woods. I flail and whack away at my old life with chainsaws, clippers, and the dull axe. For there is so much to do, what with the old road blocked with broken limbs and full of potholes needing to be filled with gravel. And when I let it go, the weeds and straw take over. Meadows and flower beds become home to poison ivy, muscadines, and sweet gum trees. Fire ant beds rise like tiny volcanoes in the fields where we once fought each hill together. Their task today to mow the meadow, shore up the fence where the deer crashed, kill the wasp above the door. But without him here, I am the only one left standing, wondering how to crank the antique tractor, mix gas with oil, if that's what I need to do. It's not the hard work, but the loneliness of it all. It's just me in the old shower, solar shower he made one summer, rinsing off the mud and sweat way out here without a naked care. I miss the way he lugged the red thermos on his back, his apple pie, his warmth on a cold night. But I wanted this rural life, asked for it, and will maintain it a little longer. And this is to all of you, this last line. And to the strong sisters who have been in this place, you know what I mean when I say it's not the hard work that stings, but the sharing of it I miss. And whenever I read that, I get the shakes, and I'm not scared of anything. But most of my work ends with something comical at the end. Something, so that's kind of who I am. And I hope some of you, if you're in Beaufort, will be able to come over and be with us Tuesday. Would be really great.
Really
I need some support from all of you who have got your things published and you're into it much more than I am. So thank you.
I'm so looking forward to you being here in person, Jane. I think you can maybe see this if I can figure out how to get it on camera. There's Jane.
Libby.
Yeah.
That's next Tuesday.
Y'all know her.
5 o'clock right here at the Conroy Center. We're
Yeah.
delighted to be able to do that with both of you. Beautifully read tonight, Jane, too. Just
Thank you.
powerful, beautiful remembrances. Thank you for that.
It's such an honor to be able to be there next week.
Well, if it's okay with you, Jane, I'll add the funny piece to it. While you were reading, my husband sat down next to me and I told him to stop making so much noise. It was going to be my turn in a minute. And he said,
Oh,
he
he
was
didn't
like,
listen.
he's like, I got my earphones in. I'm not making any noise at all. It was beautiful. What a beautiful tribute. Thank you for sharing those memories.
Thank you.
All right. So this is a short story that when people sign up for my email list, they get it for free. It's called Missing Scene. I'm just going to read the first little third of it because I don't want to take up too much time. But if you want to hear the rest of it, you just have to go to my website and sign up for my email and you'll get it for free. Missing Scene. When he says my name, I stare for a minute before believing it's really him. We are in the lobby of an elementary school, some 45 miles from where we grew up. What are the odds? He grins, and I think maybe he doesn't feel the awkwardness I feel. Then someone small pulls on his hand and he looks down, and when he looks back up, it's there. I'm holding 2 plastic containers of mini cupcakes, and I gesture toward my own small person who is standing in front of the school's trophy display case a few feet away. Brian is still handsome, dirty blonde hair and gray blue eyes like a character in a book. He's always had the pouty lips with a tinge of red that make him look just kissed. His visitor sticker is crooked over a crisply ironed pocket. Not your birthday? He glances at the cupcakes. First day. I'm wearing a slim flower print skirt and a pink top and feel suddenly like the outfit screams, Mom! My own visitor sticker is already peeling away from my breast. My little girl runs over, chattering about the people she recognized in the photos, and then stops mid-sentence upon seeing Brian and his son. Sophie, I say, this is Mr. Miller and Dawkins, Brian says. He's in kindergarten. Dawkins, I repeat, my wife's maiden name. Hi, Dawkins. Sophie's in kindergarten too, Mrs. Creech's class. Us too. Brian smiles at us both. I don't know what to say, so I just smile back, and then we turn together, the 4 of us, to walk toward Sophie's classroom. She runs ahead, remembering the path from orientation, and after a backwards glance, Dawkins follows her. The hallways swim with people. Brian and I duck around them, keeping visual pace with the children. The crowd pushes us closer together, and the uncertainty from before deepens into discomfort. The hallway seems to lengthen. The noise of the other parents and children and the first day of school mutes inexplicably. Best friends since kindergarten is how I used to describe Brian Miller and me. Our families lived next door, and we spent every day together in the clubhouse, on bikes, in the woods behind his house, playing Narnia and Capture the Flag. Then after 5th grade, my family moved away and we wrote letters. Were you in the earthquake in Santa Cruz? Yep, no school for a whole week. What happened to the Redskins in the Super Bowl? Disaster. Why doesn't your mom like California? I guess because she's crazy. Since when do you like baseball? Since now. A year later, my family moved back, but we lived across town from our old neighborhood. Brian and I went to different schools, lived separate lives, drifted further apart. Our 6 years of history became a small span while we graduated high school, attended college, got married, and started families, all without witnessing one another's efforts. And now, like the worst kind of strangers, people who used to know each other, we have been reunited. I feel unexpectedly grateful and curious. There are not enough questions to cover the gap between then and now. And there's a scene missing. Between our elementary school days and ushering our children into the same kindergarten class, there's another brief reunion. And I thought I'd tucked it away in the locked wooden box covered with stickers under his letters in my 6th grade diary. But here it is again, as anxious and unlikely as before. In 1998, we were home from college on Christmas break and wound up in the same bar. After the bar, the 7-Eleven, then the basement of his brother's townhouse under the Christmas lights. And after that, a very quiet ride home. Mom, look! My daughter is jumping, pointing to her name written in teacher script across a cutout balloon shape stapled to a bulletin board. In the chaos of Sophie's first dayness, competing memories simmer within me. When I focus on a particular strain, it's finding the desk with my name on it and glancing over to see who would sit next to me, the excitement of new toys to play with, new friends to make, hoping I'll be strong enough to climb the rope to the top this year. It's Sophie's first day, but the familiarity of it is intoxicating. Almost every aspect of Sophie lately sends me into a tailspin of my own cyclonic childhood. I watch her and try to soak up some of her excitement, but mostly I want to stare at Brian, really stare at him, and fall back into 1998. I had my sister had this incident where she ran across an ex-boyfriend in a 7-Eleven, and he was buying condoms. And he was a kid that we grew up with. Like, he's like, we knew each other when we were 12, and she sees him in the 7-Eleven when they're in college and he's buying condoms, and she was horrified. And she goes, it was so weird and awkward. I was like, oh my God, I got to write that story. So I thought, what's more awkward than the 7-Eleven? Oh, right. The first day of kindergarten, where it turns out your ex-boyfriend is right there with his kid, and let's write that story. So it's called Missing Scene. So thank you very much for having me, for letting me read that piece, Jonathan, and for making time for me. I'm excited to hear Monica. So I'll mute now, and y'all have a good rest of the time here.
Thank you, Casey. That's a wonderful short story. My God, it's so well delivered, and you read beautifully too. I always enjoy hearing you read. So thank you for being with us again. And thank you, of course, for the partnership with South Carolina Writers Association, which makes the monthly open mic night possible here at our Conroy Center. So that brings us to our featured reader this evening, Monica Lee Weatherly. And again, welcome, Monica. I hope we've not scared you away in the first hour. This has been quite the eclectic mix of voices tonight, and a good reflection of why these open mic nights are so important to us here at the Conroy Center. Monica is a poet, a writer, and in her everyday life, a professor of English at Georgia State University's Perimeter College. Her work has appeared in numerous literary journals, including, but certainly not limited to, Tulane Review, Plainsongs Magazine, Nzuri Journal, and Auburn Avenue, which is a biannual publication honoring the intellectual and creative voices of people of color. Monica is also a member of the Georgia Writers Association, and she is included in the Georgia Writers Registry. Earlier this year, I got to see Monica read and be recognized as the newest winner of the Willie Morris Award for Southern Fiction at the Oxford Conference on the Book, and that was quite an experience. So I have been looking for an opportunity to share Monica with our Conroy Center following, and tonight presents that possibility for us. So it's an absolute pleasure and honor to welcome Monica as our featured writer for tonight's open mic night.
Thank you so much, Jonathan. Greetings, everyone from Georgia. I hope everyone can hear me okay. I am just so grateful to be invited into this creative space and to be able to share this time with the readers before me. It has really, really been a pleasure for me. It's been a pleasure hearing the short stories. It's, of course, for me being a poet, a pleasure hearing the poetry. And, you know, as I sat and listened to everyone, I realized that every poem has a story, and really every story has a poem. And so I'd like to kind of tell a story about the poems I've selected to read tonight. And hopefully it's somewhat of an origin story, and hopefully it'll make the read a little bit more understandable. When I was very young, my father would load our family up into a blue station wagon, and we would drive from Missouri to a small town in Mississippi where my father grew up and visit my grandmother. And some of my earliest childhood memories were in that tiny little town. And then one day, my grandmother died, and I never thought I would see Mississippi again. And in fact, it would be several decades before I would return to the home of my father. And that was this year when I met Jonathan in Oxford. And so, although it had been so long since I'd been to Mississippi, Mississippi always was there. When I would write, for some reason, Mississippi would show up. Every poem, every short story, Mississippi was always there as a backdrop. So I decided to pick some Mississippi poems tonight, and I hope that does not offend my friends there in South Carolina. So I have 4 poems, and I would like to tell the story for each one. The first poem is called My Daddy and the Abattoir. And an abattoir is, of course, a slaughterhouse. And when I was young, my father worked in an abattoir, and I sat in Oxford with the poet Susan Kinsolving, and I told her this story about my first childhood venture to the slaughterhouse. And she turned to me and she said, "That's a poem." And several months later, it did indeed turn into a poem. So my first read, My Daddy and the Abattoir. On the side of a river along the railroad tracks, my daddy worked in a slaughterhouse. The bottoms housed carcasses of hog and sheep and cow, some of which my daddy had cut from throat to bottom. I was 4 years old when my mama first took me there to bring my daddy lunch. 4 years old when my reluctant ability to withstand the horrors of death began. That day, my father appeared from behind the doors of this concrete building, covered in the blood of the once living, like it was normal to be cloaked in the remains of the dead. I stood in horror at the sight of it all, but my daddy was immune, probably because he was born in Mississippi the same year as Emmett Till. Daddy knew what an open casket of youth and flesh and terror looked like already, so a hog's sorrowful face waiting for a violent death was nothing to gaze upon, day in and day out. Bodies on hooks to appease appetites, liquid pools of life at his feet. The slaughterhouse was as familiar to my father as the killings of Freedom Summer. It felt like Mississippi. It felt like home. My next poem, I think Jonathan has heard this. This is actually the poem that won the Willie Morris Award for Southern Poetry. And again, it's a poem in the backdrop of Mississippi. And it is about my grandmother, and it's called If I Had My Grandmama's Praise. My desire is to travel back in time, touch my grandmama's hand, and fill myself with the strength of her praise. I would be able to see and talk to God like she did when she would rock and sway and whisper. Lord Jesus, keep them children safe. Lord Jesus, keep them children safe. You see, my daddy's mama knew how to pray for her babies with a supernatural power, a mysticism that transcended space. Her praise shielded the heat of a burning cross from setting her house aflame when my daddy was just 3 months old. Her praise sent God's hands to the bottom of a creek to lift my uncle out as if he had risen from a baptism, when in fact he had almost drowned. I wish I had the red dirt of Kosciuszko, Mississippi kind of praise, the snuff perched in my bottom lip kind of praise, drinking from the whites only water fountain when nobody was looking, a bedpan because I don't have indoor plumbing, defiant because I know I'm human, even if you say it ain't so kind of praise. Skin like leather because I wash with lye soap, 4th grade education, but I've read the whole Bible. Mama died when I was 3, so I was cooking with an iron skillet filled with hot lard at 4, not reported on the census, but still exist in this world kind of praise. I wish I had the eat a chicken I killed with my bare hands, dumped in a bucket of boiling water and plucked the feathers off of myself kind of praise. A dirt road leading up to a house on the edge of a cornfield kind of praise. The swaying back and forth on a rickety wooden rocker on the front porch kind of praise. The look a white man in the deep south right in the eyes and proclaim, I am magic kind of praise. Hallelujah. I had that kind of praise. Maybe my babies would be safe. Maybe I wouldn't worry about how dangerous the world is. If I had my grandmama's praise, I would never go into the dark recesses of my mind and think the world would be better without me in it. I wish my grandmama could walk away from the heavens, step down into the ocean, pull the sun to her bosom and tell me how she got that kind of praise in her soul, how she lived such a beautiful struggle. How did those solemn requests to the Most High roll from her tongue with such ease? My praise is but a whisper, a soft touch of a breeze on my cheek, so fleeting I barely know it's there. It's an impermanence, a momentary focus, a vanishing heart, the disappointment I feel as a mother who struggles to pray. Lord Jesus, keep them children safe. Lord Jesus, keep them children safe. So that, of course, that poem arose out of just childhood memories. You know, you always have that first childhood memory, the earliest one always in the back of your mind. And my grandmother's house at that small town of Kosciuszko, Mississippi on the, the edge of a cornfield has always been with me. And so eventually, of course, it became a poem. My third Mississippi poem is about Nina Simone and her beautiful voice. And the first time that I heard her sing the song, and the song started upbeat like a show tune almost. And then, of course, I heard the lyrics, and the lyrics, the chorus, of course, was about Mississippi. So this poem is called Nina. I remember the first time I saw the footage of Nina Simone sitting with regal authority at the piano. She wore a silken dress with crystal embroidery that followed the shadow of her bosom as she sang her song, Mississippi Goddamn. Posture perfect, enunciation unblemished, calling out a year after 4 little girls became angels on 16th Street in Birmingham, and Medgar Evers lay slain in his own driveway in Jackson. It was 1964 when she sang that song, Mississippi Goddamn. Today, things are no different. Our dead are recumbent with no blanket of hope, and no one sings for them anymore. Today, Dead is just dead. There are no more Nina Simones. Mississippi, goddamn. The last selection I want to read from, my poems seem always dark. They have this very darkness about them, which is kind of contradictory to who I am as a person. So I started looking up all these Mississippi poems and I said, you got to find one that's a little bit upbeat. So I'd like to read this poem because, some of my Mississippi poems, it seems like, I don't like the place. And really, I just absolutely love Mississippi. It's in my heart. So I wrote this poem, and this is actually one of my first ventures into rhyme. And so I hope you all like this one. It's called I Ain't Worried. I ain't worried about Mississippi. I know all God's sacrifices are for the best. Like when a storm came and knocked down my magnolia tree. For days, I couldn't rest. It took away my little shade spot, a place where I would sit and sip sweet tea. Then I realized with that magnolia gone, the sun came shining on me. Those hanging trees are being cut down. Rose gardens where plantations once stood. People are a little kinder now. We are all living like we should. So I ain't worried about Mississippi. It's gonna be all right. Just like when I lost that tree and found the sun, Mississippi will see the light.
Oh my goodness, Monica. Wow.
Thank you so much. Stunning.
A lot of comments are being posted on the Facebook page, a few in the chat here right now. I think you've blown all of us away. Let her know, guys. Let her know.
Yes.
So wonderful, Monica. Thank you so much for sharing those with us. I absolutely love that poem about your grandmama. And the concept of that type of praise, man, I think we all know somebody who just has that, it's like a direct line to God, and you kind of have that envy of it as you grow up in it, kind of wondering, where did that come from? Where does that faith come from? Man, that really resonated. Really, really beautiful poem.
Particularly in the shadow of such sorrow and poverty,
Yeah.
but to still be so optimistic about life and to be able to be prayerful in that, it's really something to see. But it's also something that you start to, that introspective why, with the life I've been given, why can't I, do that? So that's kind of where that poem arose. It did arise from a dark time in my life. And so it arose right after I wrote another poem called Suicide by Motherhood. But that was the poem that after I wrote it, it actually saved me.
Nice. Did you feel like it got you closer, a little closer, either to the praise or to your grandmama?
I do, I think so. And I can read that. Jonathan, do I have a couple minutes?
You do, yeah, absolutely you do.
I can read that poem that came before if I had my grandmama's praise. So this is called Suicide by Motherhood. Today I was going to commit suicide, but I couldn't seem to find the time. Sons whose lives I must save, heirs to put on, purpose to find, soul to mend, mouth to keep silent, womb to nurture, so fatigued that I wouldn't have had the strength to lift pills to my mouth to overdose anyway. The labor of motherhood allows no time to draft my suicide note. Elegies and tasks are being penned in my mind. Homework, piano lessons, crust of bread to cut, dreams to diminish, air to clear. Motherhood won't allow for my life not to go on. Yet motherhood is the very reason lifting my foot to move a step forward requires all of my strength. How can motherhood save my life and make me want to end it at the same time? Maybe I'll use this unwanted season to heal, find what happy is, purpose is, woman is. But wait, those luxuries don't exist in the motherhood job description. Keep a house, make ancestors proud, prepare food, wipe children's tears, heal old wounds, keep others alive, host yet another human in my belly, suffer long hours to give birth, don't scream, save the world, live another unwanted day. Nothing in the job descriptions allows time for suicide. No 30-minute lunch or 15-minute break given to exhale. Work until one's heart stops beating. Love until one's soul is empty. Breathe until no air exists. So I keep my head facing upward to where the clouds meet the sun. I'm looking for rainbows at the end of my life storm. And I avoid the absurdity of ending it all in my mind. I must stay alive.
Wow. Yes, you must.
Amazing. Absolutely awesome.
Absolutely.
I would like to say that the poem about your grandmother is praise. It is a prayer. And it's every bit as powerful and lovely and amazing and communicative to the father as anything your grandmother ever said.
Thank you so much. That's some of the loveliest comments I've ever heard about that poem. Thank you so much.
Stunning poem, stunning poem. She would be so proud.
In the two contexts where I've gotten to hear you read, Monica, you've been seated both times, and I keep wondering, how is she able to do that? These are stand-up poems. These are powerful poems. How do you restrain yourself? But it puts the emphasis on your voice, and your cadence is so powerful, so perfect when you read that it really translates even through the screen. Just beautifully read this evening.
Thank you so much, Jonathan. I really appreciate those comments.
I hope we get a
Well,
chance to welcome you to our low country in person at some point
Yeah.
too. We would love to.
I'd be happy to make the drive down.
We will find an opportunity to do that. Those of us who are here in Beaufort who participated in the Pat Conroy Literary Festival just 2 weeks ago got to see 3 of the previous winners of the Willie Morris Award for Southern Fiction. So it's only fair that we get
Yeah.
the winner for the Poetry Award here as well.
Well, thank you
Absolutely.
so much.
We'll bring you when we're not having the storm, last storm of the season, hopefully. Sometime outside of hurricane season, we'll bring you here.
Yes. Well, we're getting a little bit of your rain. I'm here in the office at Georgia State.
Okay.
In my little corner, but I'm hearing the rain through the window.
The leaves are
Right, we have
coming off my trees onto the windows outside, and my cats are going nuts. So, can I just say one thing? I hadn't really thought much about writing about this, but I grew up in a middle class kind of family with, with going swimming at the country club and that kind of thing. But in the summer, my mother, who didn't really like children that much, I write about my mother sometimes. She was a nurse, and she liked the doctors that she worked with, and she liked her job a lot. But she would take me down to Horry County, which is a very poor county, and drop me for the summer. And so the church that I went to, Calvary Baptist, was, with the stained glass windows. And then the church that I would go to with my grandparents, they were tobacco farmers, tobacco and corn, and they still had mules, and we could take a ride, and so I had to completely change my everything for the summer. I went from one human being to another, and I'm starting to write about that because I didn't think anybody would find it interesting. And so one of my poems has to do with shucking beans. you know, with one of my aunts, and somebody's lost a boyfriend, and it's all about shucking beans and how to take care of things. And then the next line will be, you know, this guy's not worth spit, you know, and then go back to the shucking beans kind of thing. Because that's the way it would be. You know, you get this, they train you and they give you this information and they give you love, and they're funny as crap, you know, and those were my aunts and grandmother. So.
Well, I learned how to be a woman on a front porch. I always say that.
Front porch. Shucking beans.
Yes, the front porch is where you learn how to be a woman. And I remember those days of, you know, taking peas from the pods and these conversations that would happen. And so I think I look forward to that story. I look forward to
we
it.
churned butter. I mean, my gosh, nobody's done that.
Jane, I would say write what you feel and write what's in your heart, and don't worry about who's interested. Somebody will be interested. Write what's in your heart.
Absolutely.
Good advice, Jack.
It's just a lot of who I am came from those summers.
Yeah, I think,
you know, some of the best
storytelling,
ones, you know.
however the story comes about, you know, I am a part of a writers group. And ironically, everyone in the writers group writes in a different genre, but we all take one writing prompt and we take it, and what comes out, whatever genre you write in, it is amazing, the stories that come. And I think that it's important to just write in your truth. You know, even though I joined a writers group with no other poets, to be able to just write. I think that creative space is very important, to write in your heart, but also to be able to share as well. You know, you don't share for approval, you write for your life. You write to save your life. That's what writing is for.
Right. And my writing group has been going on for 7 years. And took me through a lot. Now, in fact, last night I was with part of my writing group at an open mic in Columbia. Every Wednesday we meet, you know, still and work, and you know, it's been we all have different methods of writing. All have different ideas, you know.
I think that's important. That's what's been important for me as a writer, particularly during the pandemic. A lot, I wrote furiously during the pandemic. And a lot of my, you know, my writers group met twice a month, and every one of those meetings, there's a poem that I felt this is pretty good. This is pretty good. And so I think those spaces are important, that you find spaces where you can just write without judgment, because there will be someone that wants to read your work. There will always be, and even if it's not, your work is there for you. It's there for you first.
Well, I write because I have to.
Yeah, and you know,
I don't particularly have a choice.
When, you know, I think the publishing industry, you know, where it's about, you know, the seeking of approval sometimes, but it's counterintuitive, but to what a writer really is. And so, you know, we have to balance that. You know, I want people to read my work versus this is work that is necessary for me. It is necessary. And so, although those two things exist, the necessary for you part has to be first. It has to absolutely be first.
Well, I loved everything I heard from all of you women, and I took notes because I'm neurotic as hell. So I would remember, Abigail, when I run into you, I can go, oh my gosh, the mother by the sea. Oh, and you know, and I'll be able to, you know, look at the birds at the bird feeder, the buntings, and it's like, oh my God, I just saved some pieces from all of you so that.
I did as well, and I hope this is not the last time that I can be in a creative space with all of you. I don't know how many of you are active on social media, but I invite you to my Instagram. It's just Dr. Monica Weatherly. on Instagram, and I would love to connect outside of this creative space and perhaps other creative spaces as well. It has just been a pleasure to share this evening with you all tonight. And Jonathan, I'm just so incredibly thankful for this opportunity.
Monica,
Thank
added
you.
so much to this experience tonight. It was beautiful introduction of your voice and your presence and your wonderful advice for writers too, to our Conroy Center community. So again, I want to thank you and everybody else who was able to join us on Zoom tonight under some difficult weather circumstances out there. So I know we had more writers who are planning on being here who are not able to join us, but what a crew, what an amazing chorus of voices we were still able to assemble tonight. Thank you to every one of you who read and shared your
Thank you,
work.
Jonathan. Jonathan, how's the weather there right now? Are y'all okay? Are you safe?
I can hear tree branches screeching against the Conroy Center windows right now.
Okay.
So probably still a little precarious out there.
Careful.
Yes.
Stay
Thank you,
safe.
Jonathan.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Everyone be safe. It was nice meeting all of you, and thank you so much for hosting me.
Thank
Oh,
you.
thank you. Thank you.
Bye, Monica.
Good night, everybody.
Good night.
Now,
Good night.